From 1969 to 1974, the Brady Bunch invited America into television's most famous blended family, creating an idealized vision of domestic life that continues to resonate in our cultural consciousness. The story of a lovely lady, a man named Brady, and their picture-perfect suburban adventures became more than just a sitcom. It evolved into a multi-generational touchstone that defined family television for decades to come. But what if the sunny suburban world of the Brady family concealed behind-scenes realities far more complex, contentious, and occasionally dark than anything that appeared on screen? Today, we're revealing what Barry Williams, Maureen McCormick, Christopher Knight, and other cast members have finally shared after decades of careful silence. The bitter disputes with network executives that threatened cancellation multiple times. The controversial original concept ABC rejected as too progressive for mainstream America. The surprising physical dangers on what appeared to be television's safest set. And the shocking revelation that television's most wholesome family show was created by a producer with a secret personal life that directly contradicted the traditional values his shows celebrated. You think you know the Brady Bunch? The cast has broken their silence about what really happened during the creation of this American institution. From the actors, who couldn't stand each other despite portraying the perfect siblings, to the systematic exploitation of child performers during the show's massive merchandising phase. This wasn't just another family sitcom. It was a carefully constructed fantasy that took a severe toll on those responsible for maintaining its wholesome facade. Creator Sherwood Schwartz once admitted in a rare unguarded moment, "I was selling America a family that couldn't exist in reality," using performers whose actual experiences were often dramatically at odds with what viewers saw on screen. After today's revelations, you'll understand exactly what he meant, and you'll never watch the Brady Bunch the same way again. The revolutionary concept that terrified ABC. The most shocking truth about the Brady Bunch is that television's most traditional-seeming family show was originally conceived as a groundbreaking exploration of America's changing family structures. A concept the network found so potentially controversial, they nearly rejected it entirely. What viewers don't realize is how progressive the show's premise actually was for 1969, explains television historian Tim Brooks. Blended families were rarely portrayed on television. Divorce was still taboo. The premise of a widow and widower were marrying and raising children from previous marriages was quietly revolutionary for mainstream entertainment. Creator Sherwood Schwartz's original vision was even more daring. Sherwood initially wanted the parents to be divorced, not widowed, reveals producer Lloyd Schwartz, Sherwood's son. The network flatly rejected this. ABC executives insisted that divorce was too controversial for family viewing hours. They mandated the parents had to be widowed to make the premise more palatable to conservative viewers. This watering down of the original concept created an internal contradiction. The show was simultaneously groundbreaking and traditional, notes media critic Jennifer Cashin Armstrong. It acknowledged the reality of blended families while carefully avoiding any suggestion of marital failure. This tension between progressivism and traditionalism defined the series. The show's treatment of Carol Brady's first marriage became particularly problematic. The most glaring evidence of network interference was the complete absence of any explanation for Carol's first husband, explains Florence Henderson, who played Carol Brady in archival interviews. "I wanted to play her as divorced, which felt more realistic for the era. The network wouldn't allow even a mention of divorce. Instead, her previous marriage simply went unrest. Neither divorced nor widowed, just a narrative void." This awkward compromise led to one of the show's most persistent mysteries. Viewers often ask what happened to Carol's first husband, notes Robert Reed, who played Mike Brady in earlier interviews. The truth is the writers were prohibited from answering that question. Network policy prevented them from stating she was divorced, but they didn't want to explicitly say he died either. It became television's most famous unaddressed backstory. The show's portrayal of gender roles similarly balanced between reinforcing and questioning traditional norms. Carol Brady was quietly revolutionary, suggests feminist media scholar Susan Douglas. She was a stay-at-home mother, but college-educated. She occasionally mentioned professional aspirations. She shared decision-making equally with her husband. These elements suggested female autonomy in subtle ways while maintaining an outwardly traditional appearance. Mike Brady's character reflected similar complexity. Robert Reed played a father who was emotionally available, who listened to his children, who didn't rely solely on authority, explains masculinity scholar Michael Kimmel. While outwardly conventional, Mike Brady represented a more progressive, nurturing masculinity than most father figures on television at that time. The household structure itself contained subtle progressive elements. Notice that Alice was treated as part of the family, not just domestic help, points out cultural historian Thomas Doherty. Her opinions mattered in family decisions. She had personal storylines and relationships. This represented a more equitable view of household labor than was standard for the era. The network's fear of controversy extended to the show's visual presentation. ABC insisted on a traditional visual design that would reassure viewers, reveals set designer Ed Stevenson. The Brady house was deliberately idealized American suburban architecture. The furnishings projected upper-middle-class stability. Every visual element was calculated to balance the potentially controversial premise with reassuringly familiar imagery. This tension between concept and execution explains much about the show's distinctive tone. The Brady Bunch exists in this curious space between acknowledging changing American family structures while studiously avoiding any suggestion that these changes might be difficult or problematic. Notes television critic Alan Sepinwall. The blending of the families happens virtually without conflict, creating a fantasy of painless family merging that had little connection to most viewers' actual experiences. The casting process similarly reflected this balancing act. When casting the parents, the network pushed for performers with squeaky clean images, reveals casting director Renee Valenti. Florence Henderson had primarily been known for wholesome roles. Robert Reed came from serious theater and the respected series The Defenders. Their established images helped offset any potential controversy from the blended family premise. The children were specifically cast to create visual cohesion. The network was concerned that viewers would constantly be distinguishing between his kids and her kids, explained Sherwood Schwartz in archival interviews. We deliberately cast children who could plausibly look like siblings. Similar coloring, features, and heights grouped by age. The famous opening grid visually unified them into a single family unit rather than emphasizing their separate origins. This careful navigation of progressivism and tradition extended to the show's storylines. The script systematically avoided any complex family dynamics that might arise from the blended situation, notes writer Lloyd Schwartz. Conflicts rarely stemmed from step-sibling tensions or adjustment difficulties. Instead, stories focused on universal childhood experiences that could occur in any family structure. This approach sidestepped potential controversy while making the show relatable to traditional families. Perhaps most tellingly, the series almost never acknowledged its own premise after the pilot. After establishing the blended family situation, the show rarely mentioned it again, observes media historian Ron Simon. The term stepmother or stepfather were almost never used. The children treated both parents as if they had always been their parents. This deliberate narrative choice helped normalize the blended structure while avoiding any suggestion that it differed from traditional families. This conceptual contradiction explains much about both the show's appeal and its limitations. The Brady Bunch offered viewers a reassuring fantasy that America's changing family structures wouldn't disrupt traditional family values. Suggests sociologist Stephanie Cowan, it acknowledged that families were taking new forms while promising that these changes wouldn't fundamentally alter the family's function or harmony. That was a comforting message for an era experiencing significant social upheaval. The sibling rivalry that shocked the cast. Behind the scenes of television's most harmonious family. The child actors experienced relationship dynamics dramatically different from their on-screen personas, creating tensions, rivalries, and alliances that occasionally erupted into genuine conflict during the show's production. The Brady kids presented perfect sibling harmony on screen. But reality was considerably more complicated, reveals Barry Williams, who played Greg Brady. We were 6 children spanning ages 8 to 14 when the show began. Each with different personalities, different professional experiences, and different approaches to the work. The fiction that we were all best friends was just that, fiction. These natural tensions were exacerbated by the production environment. The show required us to spend extraordinary amounts of time together in close quarters, explains Christopher Knight, who played Peter Brady.